Good afternoon and welcome to the Cancer Education Series brought to you by Mercy One and Above and Beyond Cancer. My name is Chris Goodale and I'm the Executive Director of Above and Beyond Cancer. We are brought to you tonight through a grant from the Iowa Cancer Consortium. It's my pleasure to introduce the founder of our organization, Dr. Dick Deming, who will introduce our speaker. Dr. Deming.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And thanks everyone for joining us. And it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker tonight, Stephanie Gonzalez. And Stephanie is from West Des Moines. And I always like to know what someone's claim to fame is in high school. And she was on a state championship softball team. And Stephanie has had a interesting life experience and has been involved in not only fitness, but life coaching and being an actress. Has been out in LA for a while. She's now back in Des Moines, and she is a fitness instructor and also a life coach, and really interested in her perspective on living life to the fullest. And Stephanie's going to do about a 30 to 40-minute presentation. Then we're going to have a conversation about how we all can live life to the fullest. I'm going to turn it over to you, Stephanie. Thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So let me just share my screen really quickly, and then we will get started. All right. And can either of you confirm that you can see my screen in full screen?
Yes, indeed. We see it full screen. It looks good.
Awesome. So first off, I just want to start out by saying thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor and a privilege. And I also want to commend everybody that is listening today, because the fact that you are here, it means that you care about your well-being. And that is one of the most valuable things that you can have, is wanting to grow and wanting to be a better version of yourself. So thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for joining us. So I'm going to speak about the mind and body connection and the importance of healing. So wellness is defined as the harmony between the mind, body, and the spirit. And although I have never personally had cancer, I actually lost my mom to cancer last summer. And so I firsthand understand a lot of the challenges and the struggles that come with it. And so my goal for this speech is to teach you about the mind and body connection and offer you practical tools that you can use to help find wellness. So I'm going to do that by sharing my story, and then we'll talk about how the mind affects the body. And finally, I will give you practical tools to heal. So like Dr. Deming said, my name is Stephanie Gonzalez. I am an actress. I'm a fitness, health, mindset coach, but most importantly, I am a journey woman. So I have been on a lot of amazing journeys in my life. As you can see, this picture on the left is me in Israel looking over the edge of the Dead Sea. The picture in the middle is me jumping into a cenote in Mexico. And then the picture on the right is me rappelling down a waterfall in Costa Rica. And they were all incredible experiences. But I am currently on the most incredible journey of my life. And that journey is the journey of knowing myself, of loving myself, and of healing myself. So this is not a journey that I've always been on. It just started about 2 to 2.5 years ago. I was going through a lot of problems, a lot of emotional pain, and a lot of physical pain as well. And I'll talk about all of that later. But I came to realize that I was struggling with 2 main root causes. And those root causes were limiting beliefs and unresolved trauma. So limiting beliefs, AKA a negative mindset. And then I had unresolved trauma or pain. And they both are inner conflicts. They were both going on inside of me, but they were manifesting in a lot of ways that were affecting my body and affecting the world around me. And so, like I said, I'll talk about those as we get into this. So it all starts growing up. So I was the youngest of four kids. I had three older brothers. This picture on the left is me with my brothers. And don't let this fool you. Don't let them fool you because, yes, they are cute, but they were very ornery and they would pick on me and they would tease me and they would hold me down and spit loogies over me and suck them in. And sometimes they wouldn't suck them in. And um, it was, it was having three older brothers is a whirlwind, and God bless my parents. But like I said, they picked on me a lot and I was very sensitive. And I started to believe the things that they would say about me. So they would tell me, oh, you're stupid, or you only want attention. And one of the biggest things was that I would cry for attention. And I started thinking that I was crying for attention when I would actually cry for a reason. I started questioning my intentions and I started saying to myself, am I being manipulative? Am I doing this? Are my intentions right? Or am I really feeling this? And it was very confusing growing up when I was questioning something that should be taken so seriously. So I started developing this negative mindset about myself. And it's not my brother's fault. This happens all the time where, siblings tease each other. I just didn't have the right skills and tools to acknowledge that those things were not true. So in addition to those limiting beliefs that were forming or those negative beliefs that were forming, I also was a natural athlete. So I started playing softball when I was 6 years old, and it had been a passion for years and years. And not only was I naturally good, but I also loved the game and I worked really, really hard. And so I kept getting better and better and better. And pretty much any team that I was on, I was one of the best players on the team. And like I said, that wasn't for lack of work because I worked really hard. I always wanted to be the best. And my dad was oftentimes my coach, and he wanted me to be the best as well. And so he always pushed me to get better and better. And again, I started developing these poor beliefs about myself. And if I wasn't the best, if I didn't have the best game or the best season, then I started viewing myself as not good enough. And that was a limiting belief that translated into a lot of different areas of my life for a long time. It just continued and perpetuated. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And then I also developed a fear of failure and taking risks because I didn't want to look bad. Because when I had in softball, when I had messed up, it was met with a lot of criticism. And so I started avoiding failure and avoiding taking risks because I didn't want to have that bad experience and I didn't want to look bad. So here I was, I had these intentions that were questioned about who I was as a person. I had these limiting beliefs that I'm not good enough. And then I also was afraid I was afraid to fail or take risks. And so all of these things were accumulating and they became limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is a state of mind, conviction, or belief that you think to be true that limits you in some way. This limiting belief could be about you, your interactions with other people, or with the world and how it works. So some examples of limiting beliefs are I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not funny enough, I'm not thin enough, any different variation of I'm not blank enough. Or I'm a loser, people don't like me, I don't deserve blank, or I'll never be blank. So these are all examples of limiting beliefs. And they are all things that will hold you back from achieving the life that you want. And the thing about limiting beliefs is that they are lies. They are not true. So all of those things that I was believing about myself, they were not true. They were not the reality. The fact was that I am good enough for anything that I want if I have hard work and effort, and that I'm not a bad person, but I continue to tell myself, and all of these things continue to hold me back because what you focus on grows. So because I was focusing on this negativity and doubt within myself and just festering on how I wasn't good enough, it continued to manifest until I had very low self-worth, and I was just very negative and very unhappy. And then those things that you think about, that you focus on, they end up becoming self-fulfilling prophecies if you allow them enough energy and enough time. So remember, what you focus on grows. And one thing that I realized that this quote really hits is the greatest sources of our suffering are the lies that we tell ourselves. And that was incredibly true for me. I was suffering for years. Like I said, those things, they started when I was very young. And for years, I held on to those beliefs about myself, and they just got worse and worse and worse. And in addition to that, I also experienced something a couple years later that was very challenging for me. And that was my parents' divorce. So when I was 15 years old, in high school, my dad said that he was leaving the family. And it was really devastating. And I'm not sure if I was just too self-involved at that time because, like I said, I was 15, or not, but I did not see it coming. And because of that, it was unexpected and it was even more devastating. And all of my brothers at this point were at college. And so it was just my mom and I. And then, my dad had left. And my mom also didn't see it coming, as far as I know. And she was devastated as well. And she was struggling with a lot of grief and a lot of hardship. And she wasn't able to be there for me in the way that I needed her. And so at that time, our roles kind of switched, and I kind of took on that parent role. And so it was a really impactful and challenging time. And in addition to that, I was also being bullied really intensely at school. And so it was a very, very hard time. And I just didn't know how to handle all of it. And so I turned to a couple things that helped me to cope. And those things were partying and hanging out with boys. So I would party to numb the pain that I was feeling because I didn't know how to face it and I didn't want to face it. And then also I was looking for others for validation because, like I said, my self-worth was so low from all of these negative thoughts that I had accumulated. And then on top of this, my world was crashing down. And so I was looking for resolution in a lot of different ways that were never going to offer me the things that I needed. And so it just perpetuated it, and it continued and continued. My negativity continued and my self-worth continued. So I want to ask you to raise your hand if you have ever gone through trauma. I want you to raise your hand loud and proud. That's a weird question, right? I get it. We don't talk about our trauma. It's not comfortable to talk about our trauma. We definitely are not loud and proud about it. It's hard to share it with other people. I know for me, I didn't want to bother people. I didn't think that my problems were bad enough. I didn't think that I deserved to be hurt by these things. And I also just didn't want to seem weak or vulnerable. And that's kind of the pattern that a lot of us get into when we go through hard things. We either negate it and say, this is not trauma, or we just ignore it and pretend like it didn't happen or it's not really affecting us. So over time, trauma leads to, if it's not dealt with, it leads to unresolved trauma. And that can manifest in a lot of different ways, including depression, anxiety, fatigue, substance abuse, isolation, physical pain, numbness, and being bitter or angry. And I struggled with all of these things. And so for the next 10 or so years, between my negative mindset that had been accumulating this entire time, so at this point, I don't know, it had been years and years, mixed with this unresolved pain that I kept pushing down and didn't acknowledge and didn't deal with, it seemed on the outside like my life was amazing. I moved to Los Angeles to pursue acting. And then I moved to Atlanta and I was booking roles. I had a lot of friends. I was traveling around the world. And to the outside eye, it probably seemed like things were going really great and like things were amazing. But on the inside, I was really struggling and I was really unhappy. And that negativity was just growing and growing inside of me. And I came to realize one day that either I was going to grow or my pain was going to grow. And I had to make the choice. And I was thinking about this earlier today in thinking about this concept of either you grow or the pain grows. And I remember growing up, I played softball, my brother played baseball. We were always at the ball fields. And so one time, I mean, this happened more than one time, but somebody hit a fly ball and it hit the windshield. And there was a small little crack, probably maybe a quarter size, maybe. And we didn't do anything about it. We just left it there. And eventually, after the first winter, that crack started getting bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually the whole windshield, there was a whole line in the windshield. And so that's kind of like our pain is it might start like something very small. And then if it's left unresolved, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you are forced to deal with it. And at that time, it becomes harder to deal with because it is bigger and more powerful. Pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pain. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. So, like I said, that pain, it will continue to grow and grow if you continue to ignore it. And that's exactly what happened. But the thing about pain is it's not necessarily a bad thing because pain or suffering, that indicates that something is not right. It is like a signal or an alarm that something is not right. And if you pay attention to that, then you can do some inner work and you can figure out what's going on within and why things don't feel right. But if you don't pay attention to it, then it just grows and grows and grows, and then it becomes a problem. And that's what happened in my life. I came to my breaking point. So about 2.5 years ago, I just had enough. About 2.5 years ago, I had a lingering feeling of sadness and I couldn't really explain why. I just knew that it was there. And like I said, I never really went deeper than that. So I never really got to the bottom of it, but I just felt it for 6 months. I felt this lingering sadness. And during that time, things that used to make me happy, they no longer did. Like I used to love to go to improv class and I found myself wanting to avoid it. That fear of looking bad, it was starting to grow and it was almost unbelievable because I remember feeling it was much stronger at that time than it ever had been when I was younger. So that fear, it grows inside with the pain. I was overworked. I was working probably 80 hours a week. I was exhausted. I was not allowing myself to get enough sleep. I was stressed out. I was in a constant state of tension. I was constantly rushing to the next thing. Even when I didn't have something else to rush to, I would rush home and I would drive through traffic and like try and beat everybody because that was just my state. I was constantly in a rush. And being in a rush like that, that is just tension magnified and held onto throughout your body. And like I said, I was afraid to talk to anyone. And because I had that constant tension in my body, that constant tension mixed with the negativity and the negative thoughts was manifesting into a lot of physical pain in my body. So I was having a lot of pain, especially on my left side of my body, and it was chronic. And so I started with a lot of tension, stress, and dis-ease, all starting with my mindset. And then over time, eventually years and years and years, that dis-ease turned into disease in my body. And so for me, it manifested into heart palpitations and chest pain. I would have eyelid twitches. My hip was in chronic pain. My knee was in pain. And those are just my experiences. It could have been a lot worse because chronic tension and stress can turn into disease in the body in a lot of different ways. It can turn into, like I said, physical pain, heart disease, stroke, or even tumors and cancer. And so for me, like I said, it was a lot of physical pain in my body and also some, symptoms like my heart palpitations. And it was so bad that I went to the doctor. I was looking for answers because I was in so much pain and I was so exhausted too. It requires a lot of energy to be so negative and to hold on to so much tension. And rather than focusing my energy on things that made me happy, I was focusing my energy on being stressed out. And even though I wasn't aware of it, that's what was happening. And so I was looking for answers for my pain and for what was going on in my body. And so I went to the doctor, and the doctor at the time, we did a lot of different tests, and he told me that everything looked good. And I was like, that's not what I wanted to hear. But he told me that he thought that my problems, my pain was coming from me living a stressful lifestyle. And at the time, I couldn't even fathom that. I was like, I don't live that stressful of a lifestyle. Of course, looking back, I understand. And I absolutely was. I'm not even sure how I maintain that lifestyle. But the thing about this is that I was trying to fix the pain. I was trying to fix the symptom rather than the cause. So the symptom was the pain, but that wasn't the underlining cause. You can see in this graphic, which I'm sure most of you have probably seen this before, that iceberg image where just the top of it is what you feel or what's going on. But then that whole big iceberg, the entire iceberg, is underneath the water. And I want you to think about this as your body. So the top little tip part, that's when it finally comes into your body. You feel just that little bit of what's going on. But what's really going on inside of your body is everything that's underneath that water. So that entire iceberg was going on inside of my body, and I was just feeling the little teeny tip. And I was looking at the symptom, the pain, but I was not paying attention or not willing to look into what the cause was. So another example of this, unrelated to the body, is the symptom is a wet carpet. And you can fix the wet carpet. You can clean it up. You can get a new carpet. But if you don't fix the cause, that carpet is going to continue to get wet over and over and over again. It's a Band-Aid solution until you finally pay attention and fix the cause of the problem. And for me, my cause was negative thoughts and unresolved trauma. So like I said, it all started on the inside, and it was so much bigger on the inside. So this is an example of a negative thought pattern and how it works. So starting with thoughts, the negative thoughts are either nobody likes me or I always mess things up. And then that leads to feelings of sad, self-conscious, anxious, which then turns into the body feelings of tension, heart palpitations, anxiety, no energy, fatigue, all the things that I was experiencing, which then turns into behavior, which is withdrawing from others and stopping doing the things that you enjoy. And then that just perpetuates this cycle. So then it just validates your thoughts that nobody likes me. And then it becomes, I knew I was a loser, or I knew that I would never have any friends. And it gets worse and worse and worse. And it continues in a pattern because that pattern becomes ingrained in you. That pattern of negativity becomes ingrained in you. And so you can change the pattern by changing your thoughts. Our thoughts have a lot of power, not just our thoughts, but our words as well. So I was going to play a video, but I was having some technical difficulties. So I'm just going to walk you through this. Masaru Emoto, he's a researcher in Japan, and he's written several books, and he studied water. And so he would gather different water molecules from sources all over the world, from clean water sources, and then from polluted water. And he would freeze the water, and then he would put it under the microscope and look at what it looked like up close. And Then he started noticing that the cleaner the water source was, the more pretty it looked. So it had more crystallization. It was also lighter in color, and it was just more beautiful, for lack of a better word or explanation. And then the polluted water was more muddy and dirty, and you could definitely tell a difference. And so he started getting more curious about water and the energy that it possesses. And so he put labels on these different slides of water, and some of them were positive and some of them were negative. So he would put happiness, love, peace, or anger, resentment. And then from there, he also went into praying. So I'm going to just share with you some of those different water molecules. So this one is the words thank you. So the molecules would actually change based on what the word was that was placed on it. So it was either placed on it, or him or his associates would say these things out loud to the water, and the water crystals would change over time. And so you can see this one said thank you. It had thank you labeled on it. Very beautiful. This one was joy. This was evil. So you can tell there is a huge difference between thank you and joy and evil. So this is side by side, you make me sick versus love and gratitude. Huge difference. And then finally, this is the same water source. So it came from the same place. And this first one was before, and this second one was after a prayer. So all of that being said, what I want you to take away from that is the knowledge that our words and our thoughts have power. The things that we say to ourselves, they have a lot of power. We are about 60% water. And just like these water molecules were able to heal, we too are also able to heal. So if you would like more information on this, there are several YouTube videos. And also he's written several books. Masaru Emoto is his name. Healing does not mean that you're weak. Healing means that healing equals wisdom, it equals strength, and it equals power. So it equals wisdom because the more you face yourself, the more you learn about yourself, and then you learn more about others as well. It equals strength because facing your pain and overcoming it makes you a better version of yourself. And it also equals power because we all have unique experiences and hardships that we have gone through that make us equipped to help others. But healing takes grace, compassion, and forgiveness. It takes getting to know yourself, and it takes falling in love with yourself. It takes being kind and compassionate, and it also takes forgiving yourself, forgiving those who have wronged you, and forgiving yourself for maybe wronging yourself or not doing things the way that you wish you had. But it is not easy. Healing is not easy because it takes going inward, and going inward, that area underneath the iceberg, that's where all the pain lives. And it can be scary to face your pain because it might change you and it might bring things up that you don't want to deal with. But it is so worth it because if you don't deal with those things, it will turn into a bigger problem, like I mentioned. So be brave enough to heal yourself, even when it hurts. It is so important for your happiness, and it is worth going through the hard thing so that you can get to the other side. So like I said, I started my healing journey about 2.5 to 2 years ago. And so I've tried a lot of different things. And like I said, the biggest thing is falling in love with yourself, getting to know yourself and falling in love with yourself. But I created a mnemonic for you because I want to give you some practical tools that you can use to heal yourself and find more happiness and joy. And that mnemonic is Amen. Just like church. You didn't know you were coming to church today. So it stands for awareness, meditation, enjoy life, and not alone. And the other thing about Amen is when I looked it up, It actually means so it is. Like in yoga practice, it means so it is. And so it's like, this is the truth. So amen. Awareness, meditation, enjoy life, and not alone. Starting with awareness. Like I said, what you focus on grows. And it all starts with awareness. If you're not aware that you have a problem, if you're not aware of what's going on, then how can you possibly change it? I'm sure a lot of you have seen this graphic, but I want to walk you through it. So watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become habits. Watch your habits for they become character. Watch your character for it becomes your destiny. And now I'm going to walk you through it with that first belief that I had, I'm not good enough. So I told myself, I'm not good enough. Those were my thoughts. And then they turned into my words that said, I don't deserve anything that's good, or no, I don't want those things that I actually did want, or Stephanie, you're so dumb. Those became my words, which then turned into my actions where I didn't want to try new things because I was afraid of looking bad and I was afraid of failing. So I retreated, which turned into my habits of not going after the things that I really want in life. And then it turned into complacency, and it potentially turned into what people call laziness. But I believe that there's no such thing as laziness. I believe laziness is a symptom for a greater cause, like I talked about before. So my habit was retreating. My character was, I was a person that would say one thing and then I didn't want to do it because I was so deathly afraid. So I was not somebody that was reliable. And my destiny was at that point something that I was so unhappy. I had so much resentment. And if I did say yes to somebody, which I did a lot of times because I was a people pleaser, then I would get resentful for them for taking my valuable time. And so you can see how it started at I'm not good enough, and it manifested into honestly a painful life. But it doesn't have to be this way. So you can flip the script. So the thing that I did that I found super valuable is I took out a pen and paper and I wrote down all of my limiting beliefs, all of my negative thoughts that I had about myself. I wrote down about 10 to 15 of those thoughts, because if they are not inside of you, then they no longer have power over you. And so I wrote them down. There's something so powerful about doing this exercise. I wrote them down so that way I could see them and I could realize them for what they were, lies. And after I had them down, I would cross them out, and then I would turn it into an affirmative statement. So that statement of I'm not good enough now became God made me perfect, or I can do anything I want to do. Things that made me feel good. So I shifted the script, and over time, just changing your thoughts, it will change your words, it changes your actions, it changes your habits, it changes your character, and it changes your destiny. But it all starts with awareness. The M stands for meditation, and meditation is the process of redirecting your thoughts to calm your mind. So meditation is so valuable. You can see from this graphic, somebody that is mindful, there's a lot of chaos and tension and stress and a lot going on, for somebody that's mindful and is in the present moment and taking in their surroundings. Which person would you rather be? So meditation is so important because it helps you to live in the present moment. So many of us suffer with living in the past or living in the future. We have a lot of regret and pain and shame that comes from the past, and we hold on to those experiences, and a lot of worry about what could happen in the future. And all of that, it just takes away from the person that we want to be. It takes away from the energy to put into the things that we want. If we're focusing so much on how we messed up, then we're not truly giving ourselves in the moment. It also helps to connect with your breath and your body. Your breath is your life force. And so many people hold their breath because they're in that constant state of tension that I talked about. And taking a deep breath is so good for your body. It is so good for all of your cells. It is like nourishment to your body. It literally taking deep breaths literally is energizing. Meditation also helps to decrease anger, and it brings inner calm and peace. So it makes you mindful rather than mindful. So I kind of cheated because I teach fitness and I needed to incorporate moving your body. So there's an asterisk on this. Meditation and moving your body, they are equally important. And the funny thing about them is if you challenge yourself by moving your body, you will achieve all of the same things. So moving your body and challenging yourself through exercise, you will be forced into the present moment. You will connect with your breath and your body. It will decrease your anger and you will find inner calm and peace. So meditation is like the yin, moving your body is like the yang, and they are both very valuable. So I just couldn't leave one out. And also moving your body helps with achieving a sense of accomplishment because it shows you that you can do hard things, which translates into other areas of your life. The E stands for enjoy life. This was one of the ones that I was definitely not allowing myself. And I want you to take that seriously because I said I was not allowing myself to enjoy life. It is up to you to take the time to love yourself and to have fun and do the things that fill you up and make you feel good. Nobody else is going to care for you the way that you do. But if you don't care for yourself, it's going to be so hard to care for other people. So some examples are focus on your wins. So often we focus so much on all of the negative things that we've done or our shortcomings. What if you got in the habit of celebrating your wins and all of the things that you did right? Think how good you would feel about yourself. Second one, practice gratitude. So every single morning I wake up and I write down 3 to 5 things that I'm grateful for. And by doing this practice, it has allowed me to focus on things that make me happy. And like I said, what you focus on grows. So I've started paying attention to more things that make me happy. And then I became more happy because I was paying attention and I was looking for things. And I was also just looking at things in a new way. Affirmations, I talked about earlier, changing your thoughts to something that is empowering. So an empowering statement like, I am strong. Find a community. You are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So make sure that you are doing life with incredible, amazing people that lift you up. We need people. We are so much better when we do life with others. So make sure you are surrounded by amazing people. Go outside. It is so healing to be outside. It is like God's playground. There is so much that you can watch and learn from being in nature. And finally, play. Allow yourself to play. Allow yourself to have fun. All of those things that you have wanted to do since you were a little kid, but you said, oh, I'll do them next year, or oh, I'll do them next year. Things are always going to come up. Now is the time to make time for things that make you happy, because then you'll be happier overall and life is going to happen either way. So make the time now to do things that are fun for you. And finally, you are not alone. Whatever you are going through, know that you do not have to go through it on your own. So you can talk to a friend or a therapist. Like I said, we are so much better when we are doing life with others. And by sharing your story, you are excavating that pain. It is honestly almost unbelievable how powerful it is just to say things out loud, just to see it. Like I said, sometimes we get so caught in that negative pattern that we can't even really see what's going on. And so by talking about things out loud, it gives you a different perspective. And if you don't feel like those are an option, you can journal. Journaling is so powerful. I really relied heavily on journaling in the last couple of years, and I would just go deeper and deeper. I feel this way. Why do I feel this way? What's really going on? And asking myself hard questions so that I could get to the root cause. And finally, you were created for a reason. whatever you believe in, I encourage you to connect with your creator, because God made you wonderfully and he made you beautifully, and he did not make you so that you could doubt yourself or that you could be in pain. So if you don't feel like you have a person to talk to, if you don't want to journal, connect to your source. You are not alone. And also, your story, if you share your story, it could help someone else who is going through the same thing. So, amen. That is awareness, meditation / move your body, enjoy life, and not alone. Remember that anytime that you are struggling, you are going through a hard time, or you need a pick-me-up. Awareness, meditation, move your body, enjoy life, not alone. The thing about these things is they're not always easy to do, especially if you're in a negative mindset. They take work, they take effort, but anything worth doing takes work and takes effort. So like I said, I started my healing journey about 2 to 2.5 years ago, and I was exhausted. I was in so much physical pain. I was angry. I was sad. The list could go on and on and on. And through my journey of healing, most importantly, I found myself and I fell in love with myself. And by truly loving yourself, that changes everything in your life. I have become happier. I'm able to give more of myself. I now listen to my needs. And now when I'm in a hard workout and my knee starts hurting, I listen to that. I respect that as a signal. Before, I used to push it and I would basically say, be quiet, knee, we got to get through this. But now I'm working together with myself in a much healthier way. And it's not like things are just amazing. There are ups and downs, but the greatest thing that I have found is the love for myself. And because I found the love for myself, like I said, I've been able to love other people more deeply and enjoy this experience of life more deeply. And also, I found the love of my life, and we got engaged last summer. So this is me and my fiance, and this is my mom while she was in hospice. And like I said, she passed away last summer. And the thing about healing is it is ongoing. You are never done because life is full of ups and downs. It is a journey, and you will go through hard things. But I can tell you this, last summer, when my mom was going through it and I was one of her caregivers, that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever gone through in my life. But because I had been on my healing journey for a year or a year and a half at that point, I was able to move through that experience with much more grace. I was able to offer myself grace. I was able to give more to those, the rest of my family who were also caretaking. And I was able to really be in that moment with my mom when it mattered, rather than on focusing on all the negativity. And and also after that happened, I was able to listen to my needs and deal with this in a proper way rather than pushing it away and suppressing it. So I was able to allow space to feel my feelings. Healing is an ongoing journey. I will leave you with this. Kintsugi is a Japanese art form that translates to golden joinery. So this is an example of kintsugi. And in Japan, there is this art form. And when a piece of pottery breaks, they use gold glue to fix it. Rather than trying to hide the broken pieces or the scars or the cracks, they believe that those broken pieces are valuable, beautiful, and unique. And they believe that it adds more quality and more beauty to the overall piece. So I want you to consider this the next time that you feel down or you feel broken. wherever you are in life, whether you recently got diagnosed with cancer, whether you are in recovery, or whether you are just feeling down by life right now, I invite you on the epic journey of loving yourself, knowing yourself, and healing yourself. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. I think what I'll have you do, there we go, is just to have a little conversation with you. Thanks for sharing that with us. I especially drawn by your mom's journey and the fact that you were able to be with her as she was going through her last days and living with incurable cancer. What would you say you learned about yourself in caring for your mom as she died of her cancer?
Well, so my mom had a glioblastoma and she was diagnosed in June and she was given 1 to 2 months. And then she passed away 2.5 months later. And the thing that I learned about myself, I guess, is that I'm stronger than I knew, but also that it's okay to not be strong. I was trying to be very strong for my mom. And sometimes it's okay to let your guard down. Sometimes it's okay to break, and sometimes it's okay to cry and to not be strong. And so I learned that I don't have to be strong. And also, I just learned not necessarily about myself, but about my values is what's really important in life, and making time for people that you care about, of course.
Yeah. And that's, when I think about how to find fulfillment in life, often it is about reaching out and helping other people. And one of the fastest, shortest pathways to happiness is sort of getting out of yourself to put someone else in the center of attention and helping others. And it's interesting that you also identified that. Mental health is such an important thing. It's ironic that when we talk about, like, if we just talk about health, it seems really positive. But when you say the word mental health, most people have a negative concept because we only talk about mental health usually in its absence. And obviously, we all benefit by having some counselors. When you think back on your journey, obviously you've given us some things of what we can do to help ourselves. Who helped you the most as you were starting to recognize that there was something about the way you were thinking of things? We use mental health. A lot of it is philosophical. We don't talk about philosophical distress often. We sort of roll it all together, whether we call it psychological or philosophical or spiritual. But when you had this sense that it wasn't a strictly imbalance of electrolytes or a knee problem or a joint problem, but really this philosophical problem, who helped you the most?
So it's funny because I'm super stubborn. And so I had a lot of different points that, looking back, I realized, oh, that really taught me that I matter. Like my acting class, for instance, like that taught me to show up and take up space, or connecting to my breath, like, and my power and being on my impulses and those different things, and listening to my body and my gut. But the most impactful thing that happened was the right place at the right time. So in addition to being stubborn, I didn't want to burden people. And so I didn't share what was going on with anybody because I didn't feel like my problems were bad enough, like I said. And so my friend came over one day and I just broke and I started crying, and it was a blessing because had that not happened, maybe it would have been longer. And she listened to me and she was there for me and she held space for me. And then she suggested therapy. And I had been to therapy when I was younger, but I just didn't really think it I hadn't thought about it as an option because I was suppressing everything. I didn't think I had any, any things I needed to deal with. And so that was the most impactful moment because she listened to me, which showed me that I was worth listening to and what I was going through was worth listening to. And then she offered me a solution, which really, propelled me into wanting to find more solutions. And also, sorry, I did The Artist Way, which is a book. It's a 12-week journey on healing. And that was very, very profound. Like going through it and doing the work and going inward and stuff like that pulled up a lot of things.
Yeah, but it's good that you got connected with a therapist. That people think nothing about going to the doctor when they have a pain, and as you mentioned, hoping the doctor finds the source of this pain and gives you a pill, and it's all going to be better. But there's so much suffering that we experience that isn't just something that a pill can relieve, but there's some wonderful, wonderful mental health counselors that can help us kind of with this process of finding our own strength and helping us on a path. You gave us some practical advice that helps a lot. I know certainly physical activity for me, being out in nature, being around other people. So in 15 minutes, we're going to be doing spin class, and we're going to be having fellowship and music and engaging in movement. And all of those things can help us. You also mentioned other things such as journaling and another way of being present with your own feelings. I love the habits too. We all do habits. Most of us get the brushing of our teeth in the morning. That gets to be a pretty ingrained habit for all of us. The exercising every day and the eating correctly, those get to be habits, and we all can get an A+ on the written test, but we don't always ingrain those in our habits. As an athlete, obviously becoming a good athlete is a matter of developing habits. I mean, starting off with some talents, but developing the habits that we call workouts or practice or swinging the bat at a moving ball, how many times before you can get to be good at that. So those developing of habits are a good thing. And as a coach, I'm sure that's what you work on a lot with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a book called Mindset that I absolutely adore, and it's by Carol Dweck, who is a psychologist or psychiatrist. And she talks about how people have two different types of mindsets. And there's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And as kids, a lot of times, this is good for parents, but also good for you to maybe think back on your own experience, is basically there's no such thing as natural talent. And if we tell people, oh, you're so talented, you're so smart, then it makes them think that there is a stopping point for them. And then if they mess up, they don't know how to handle it. And so that's called a fixed mindset, whereas a growth mindset believes that hard work and effort is the thing that leads to being talented or being skilled or being smart. And there's an infinite amount of all of those things if you just work hard enough in those things. And so I think that book is really valuable.
Yeah, I also like the idea of exposing yourself to risk. If we only did what we knew we could do, we never would realize our potential. As I like to say, it's only when you reach above and beyond what you know you can do that you find out what you really can do. And it's the willingness to fail and to fail again and to fail better. And eventually, after missing a moving ball with a bat many times, you learn to connect much more often. But it's subjecting yourself to failure. I don't know about softball, but in baseball, like if you bat 300, that's really, really good, which means that 70% of the time you're getting out. But it's putting yourself at the bat every time.
Yeah. And again, it all starts with that mindset and changing the way that we see failure, seeing failure as a good thing because it's a stepping stone towards success rather than seeing failure as the end all be all. And if you don't get past it, then you're bad. But failure is actually a good thing. And if we can shift the way that we think about failure, then yes, we can grow and become better and take more risks.
Great. Well, thank you for being with us today. I will remember to be aware. I will be mindful. I will exercise and enjoy life, and also realize that I'm not alone, and being together with other people is very, very healing. So thank you for being with us this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris to send us off for the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephanie, thank you. Very inspirational. This session of the Cancer Education Series has been recorded and will be on our YouTube channel tomorrow. It will also be on the Mercy One website if you search for Cancer Education Series. So, and all of our recordings of these Cancer Education Series sessions are on there. You can find them all back to almost about a year ago. So, Stephanie, good luck to you and your podcasts. And that was one of the things that we didn't mention, but they can Google your name as I did earlier today and find all kinds of really inspiring podcasts and discussions as well. So thanks for joining us tonight. And we appreciate everyone who was able to join us, both here present at Mercy One Health and Fitness Center and also on our through the webinar. So thanks again. Take care.
Thanks so much.